will talk about the Jewish life in modern Israel. I am Dr. Gil Dekel. I was born and lived in Israel for many years. This is a cultural perspective about Israel. And modern Israel is actually very ancient. When you talk about Israel, you always use two words, modern and ancient. So the story of modern Israel starts in ancient time with this man, Abraham. In Hebrew, Avraham Avinu. He was born 4,000 years ago in a place called Ur Kasdim. Ur Kasdim, outside of Israel. And then he emigrated to Israel. He lived in many areas of that country. And then his children and his grandchildren and great-grandchildren became the 12 Jewish tribes of Israel. Each tribe had its own little spot in ancient Israel. So that's where they lived. And they were happy, living happily there. Now I was born at that spot over there in the city of Haifa. Not 4,000 years ago, like Abraham Avinu, but more recently. I'm recent. I was born recently. I'm modern. How old are you?
21.
21. Are you recent?
I'd say so.
You say so, yeah. So everyone here is recent, right? Recent?
Recent.
We all agree. So yeah? We all recent and modern. So I was born there in the city of Haifa. Haifa is built on mountains, actually on Mount Carmel. It's a beautiful city and it is surrounded by the sea. From three corners, it is surrounded by the sea, Mediterranean Sea. And the interesting thing is that each house, each home, looks very different to the other. So this is one house, that's private house, which looks like that. I hope you can see. Next to a different house that looks completely different. They don't have the templates like we have here in Britain, where houses are more or less the same. Now in Israel, you would have different vantage points in Haifa. You can look from above or from below. Really interesting vantage point. This is actually in the zoo, in Haifa, in the zoo. Beautiful, this little zoo that was built in the forest, right there in the forest, stunning place, and you can see, you can look from above. Now it has sign, information posts in English, right? So this is some information signs in the zoo, still in the zoo. And that's in English. So if you find your way to Israel, and your GPS breaks, and your mobile phone breaks, you will still be okay, because every signpost, every street sign has English to it. So you can ask people as well. You have English on most documents, and you would always have Hebrew, as you can see here, for the Hebrew speakers of Israel, and you would also have Arabic for the Arabic speakers of Israel. Even if you look at the coin and the money, banknote, you will see English, Hebrew, and Arabic. Now, Israel is known as a startup nation. They are a startup nation. Startup nation, the question is why? Why is it that such a small country is considered as a startup nation? And the answer is very simple. Because they are thinking outside of the box in Israel. In Israel, you are literally allowed to think outside of the box. It is very common that people are simply trying things. You're allowed to try things. You're allowed to give it a go. Half of the time, it may fail what you try. It's not going to work. But the other time, the other 50% of the time, it will succeed. It will be a massive, massive success. But it's not always good. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it is awkward. Like this man here, literally on the first floor, second floor, right? Who is fixing the window there, the bar or something, and he's literally just standing on this cooler system. He's literally standing, because it saves time. You don't need harness, you don't need ropes, you don't need ladder, right? Thinking outside of the box saves you time. On the other hand, high technology. Israel has managed to build its own spacecraft, which they sent to the moon. Now, how many countries on this planet have the technology to build a spacecraft? How many countries can build their own spacecraft? 10? 15 countries? Israel has the technology, and it's a nation of 9 million people. This is homegrown. This spacecraft, which they built 5 years ago and they sent to the moon, is called Bereshit. You see at the top, Bereshit. Bereshit is the biblical name of the first book, Genesis in English, or in the beginning, Bereshit. This is Bereshit 1. And they sent it to the moon, and they tried to land it on the moon, but it fell, it crashed. It didn't manage to land. Nevertheless, massive success, I would say. But I tell you something. I think that this spacecraft was actually thinking outside of the box. I don't think it crashed. I think this spacecraft was actually saying, I'm not going to land on the moon. Why would I land on the moon? What's on the moon? An arid, dry land? Why should I bother land on the moon? No way. And so she faked her crash. That's right? Is that true? She faked her crash. She didn't crash. Bereshit didn't crash. And now she's hovering in space, taking selfies. Hashtag Bereshit. Look, they're thinking I've crashed, I didn't crash. And she's posting it on Instagram. Do you have Instagram? Have you seen her selfies? Do you got Instagram? If you see the selfies from Bereshit 1, let me know, right? We're looking for her. Let me know. Thinking outside of the box. If you do have bars, like security bars on your windows, like this, if you have bars, you will make a second use of the bar. It's not just security bars, it's also going to be where you put your basketball hoop. Great, isn't it? The most uncompositional thing, but it is effective. You have windows, you have bars, which are also for your basketball hoop. Now, Israel is a very hot country, so the land is dry. And therefore, the earth here is very solid. So you could bounce a ball on that ground. You can play basketball, it will work. They don't have the soggy, wet ground that we have here in this country. So there you go. Thinking outside of the box. Now, I must admit that these two cyclists, they did stop before this white line here when it was red. I must admit. They did stop as you should before the line. But then, when they were waiting, they were kind of stealing a few meters. You know how come they sometimes steal another meter, another meter, another meter, until they reach this spot right there. And when I wanted to cross the road, I literally had to go like this, around the cyclist, back, and then cross the road, right? So, in Britain, we have this, yeah? That's what we have, yeah, what should we call it? Culture, music, the Beatles. And Israel, you get to that. I mean, they're both good, I think. They're both interesting. Actually, in Israel, they have an incredible music. They have brilliant culture and brilliant music because they combine East and West. It's a Western country that also embraces its Eastern heritage. So the music is really interesting in Israel. The city of Haifa, where I come from, is known for a few holy sites in the city, one of which is the Baha'i World Center. The views from the top up there are stunning, and sometimes they will open it and you can literally walk all the way down. That is the Baha'i Center in Haifa. Not far from there, if you go around the mountain, you have the sacred cave of the prophet Elijah. In Hebrew, Eliyahu Hanavi. His cave is right there behind it. It's usually locked. I've been there only once. So, you have those vantage points from low and from above. And that is very, very common scenery in the city of Haifa. Very common scenery where you have these narrow alleys taking you to the houses from the top of the mountain. Very much narrow roads going down. So you have to walk these staircases, walking down to reach that flat. And mind you, in the morning you have to walk all the way up. That's how I would describe the city of Haifa, those downhill roads. Now, what you see here at the background, what looks like the sky, is actually the sea, the blue sea that mingles with the sky. The top 5 centimeters would be the sky, and then all the way 5 centimeters and up to here, that blue is not the sky. It's actually the sea, which you can see from afar, and they kind of mingle, they become like one bluish, one element. So, what do I miss most? As usual, the simplest thing, that's what you miss. The simplest thing, like proper falafel. Now this is how you should have falafel. In a pita bread, which is a circle pocket bread, you put hot falafel, warm falafel, with Israeli salad, and on top of it, some tahini sauce, tahini dip. That's how you should have falafel. Now they do sell falafel in Britain. Have you seen them? They come in little boxes, little plastic boxes. You have to peel it, which is already not common to the falafel experience. You have to open it, you have to put it in the oven and to warm it, and then what? Eat it with fork and knife? No, I do it because I have to, but no, that's how you should do it. I also miss the singing of the crickets, the chirps of the crickets. So at night you can hear the crickets, and as they breathe, they give you these little chirps. I miss it a lot. I remember very clearly hearing it at night when I would go to bed in the evening and at night. And because Israel is very hot, the singing, the chirping is very constant. And you can tell the weather by counting it. So you can count how many chirps per minute, add some measurement, and then you would know the temperature. I remember doing it as a kid. The chirps of the crickets, great fun. I miss my shadow. I promise you, I remember I used to have shadow. Did you ever have a shadow? Yeah. It's great fun in Israel. I remember walking, and as you would walk, the shadow would become big and then smaller around you, and then again would become big and small around you. A great companion when you go to school as a friend. Great friend. I miss simple chocolate, which is very different, perhaps not better, but because the country is so hot, a normal chocolate would melt. So they have to put something in it which make it a bit more solid. Different texture, different feeling to it. But a note, it says here, sugar, plenty of it. Saturated oil, plenty of it. So don't come closer to that chocolate. However, you are safe because gluten-free. There you go. One thing bad, one thing is good. Now, it's very different to have an ice cream, any lolly ice cream, in a hot country on the beach compared to how we have it here in this country on cold weather. It is a totally different experience, although the ice cream, the chocolate is probably the same. But you really need to experience a lolly ice cream on the beach when there is nice breeze and nice sun. I also miss the chocolate-coated treat called Crembo. So you can find them in Britain and Europe. They look like that. They come in a fancy shape in Britain. It tastes completely different. That's how it should be. That's how I remember it. It tastes very different. So you have the marshmallow, they call it, the chocolate, and here you have a biscuit. And in Israel there is a long-standing debate, a debate of how would you eat your Crembo. Now this is serious, this is not a joke. You can start off by the cream, just give a bite to the actual cream, the top. Or apparently some people will squash it, make it flat like pita bread, and they will eat it like that, like a pita bread. Or you can separate the waffle, the biscuit at the bottom, simply separate it and bite that first, and then the cream. Now I also heard that some people will put it into pita bread. You know what comes next? They will crush it inside pita bread, and they will hot pita bread with Crembo inside. I never tried it, I must say, but it makes sense. It's like a chocolate spread in pita bread. I miss the sun sets. The sun that sets in Israel, you can see it clearly. This is Haifa, I think 8 o'clock in the evening. That's when the sun sets, and it's incredible. We used to drive, sit on the beach on the sand, and just watch it. It takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes for the sun to literally set. And you look down and 10 minutes, that's it, it's gone. This is stunning. The greatest show on earth, literally. In Haifa, you have a lot of pine cone trees. Apparently, pine cone trees. So we would find these pine cones on the floor, on the ground. And what we used to do is you would take the seed out, and it comes in a strong shell, strong casting, really solid shell. You have to take a stone and break it, and then we would just eat it. So, this photo is from northern Israel. What you see here is one plot of land which has all this feature, proper grass, you see measure, light post, everything is built, everything is ready. Just next to it, literally next to it, you will find a plot of land which is bare, completely empty. If you walk down the street, again, plot of land, built, empty, built, empty, built, empty. In the same street, it's incredible. The opportunity to build is still great in Israel, the opportunity to create. I'm always showing this to my design student, and I tell them this is how you should think as a designer or as an academic. Always bear in mind, have one side of your mind which is analytical, measure, that's your product. But always keep one side of your brain bare, empty. Look at all the opportunities. Imagine all the things that you can build here on these sides. So, both sides of thinking, of opportunities. In Israel, you do have some astonishing miracles. This is the so-called Dead Sea. In Israel, they call it the Salt Sea. It's full of salt. It's not dead. We say dead because fish cannot live in there, but there is salt and some other organism. So it's the Salt Sea, which is the lowest point on earth as well. The lowest point on earth. They are making a health product from the silt there under the brand called Ahava. I think you can still find it. So that is pure salt. Not far from that, you will find the Sea of Galilee, which is sweet water. It is literally sweet water. I think it's like a 2-hour drive straight. Salt water, sweet water. This is called Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee. It's not a sea, it's a massive lake. But Israel is so small, so they think it's a sea. This is the biblical Sea of Galilee, which is mentioned in the Torah, in the Bible. It's called Kinneret. So incredible. I don't know how this could happen. Completely salt, completely sweet water. It's literally sweet. I tried it. And they're using it as the pool of the fresh drinking water. The name Israel is really interesting. You see the L in red, that is one of the Hebrew words to God. So El in Hebrew means God. Yisra, or in Hebrew, Israel, so God, El, and Yisra, which means Sarita, you have been dwelling with God. So this is the name that Yaakov was given. Yaakov, the grandson of Abraham, first slide Abraham, then Yitzchak, then Yaakov, and then he changed his name to Israel because he had experience of dwelling with God. So the name Israel means dwelling with God, or being with God, or being bestowed by the power of God. And any name you will see that has El in it has an original Hebrew, like Raphael. Raphael means in Hebrew refuah, which is health, medicine. El means God. So the name Raphael, or in Hebrew Raphael, means we hope you will have the health of God, or may the health of God be upon you, Raphael. Another name you can think of, Ariel, Gabriel, Raphael.
Samuel.
Sorry?
Samuel.
Samuel. So Samuel means the hearing voice of God. Gabriel means the strength of God. Ariel means the lion of God, again the strength of God.
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel means God with us. Immanu, with us, El is God. Correct. So also it's interesting because in Hebrew you can know the meanings of the name. So do you want to learn some modern slang in Hebrew? Modern slang. Sababa. Try it. Exactly. So Sababa. Long ba. Sababa. Sababa. It means cool, great. So how was your day? Sababa. How you've been to that party? How was it? Sababa. It's great. Another funny one. Stam. Long time. Stam. Try to say it. Yeah, very good. Stam, which means about the opposite of sababa, which means not so serious, not so great. So when you pull a joke on someone, you tell them stam. Just put the joke on you. How was that film you watched? Stam. Not so great. Let's look at my favorite, which is difficult to say, tachles. Exactly. Tachles, which means the practicality. It means the actions. What are the actions that we need to do? So I used to sit in the very, very long meetings in the past, and I was always wanted to shout out, okay, so what is the tachles? What do we actually need to do to achieve the discussion? Discussion is great. This is the opposite of discussion. It's about the actions. And in the Jewish tradition, the Jewish people said, we shall do and we shall hear in one of the encounter with God in Moses. So they say first, we shall do something, and then we shall think that we shall talk about it. So tachles, they were talking about the tachles. This one here, shtuyot bemitz. This is funny. It means literally nonsense in Jews. Nonsense in Jews. What did he say? Oh, nothing serious. Shtiyot bemitz, nothing really serious. And if you want to elaborate, you say nonsense in tomato juice, which go shtiyot bemitz agvaniyot. I read something in the newspaper, shtiyot bemitz agvaniyot. Really nonsense, not serious. And so the Hebrew language is fascinating because in Hebrew we do have vowels, but we don't use them so much. We use consonants more than we use vowels. So for example, in English, we would say hello. We know to say he because of the E, because of the vowel. We don't say holo, we don't say hulu, we say hello. Now in Hebrew, we have vowels, we don't use them so much, so we write only this H and L. So how would you know to pronounce it as hello and not hilo and not holo? How would you know? Well, what happens, because the country is so hot, the vowels actually melted, literally. And you can see the red one here, and they became those marks below the text, below the letter. It's called nikud. That this is actually telling you how to pronounce, this is the vowels. And sometimes when it's really hot, I've been to something like 47 degrees, the vowels actually evaporate and they go above the letter here, those dots, those symbols here. So this symbol will tell you how to pronounce the words. It's the equivalent of the vowels. And once you know to read it, you actually don't bother writing those. It's called nikud. You don't even write down, so you just write like that. But you know already how to pronounce it. And so with the kids, I do this little exercise. This is how to pronounce everything. So I do this exercise with kids, and if you want, we can do it later on. You can write your name without vowels, and you can have nikud later on. I can do it with you if you wanted with your name. And so Tel Aviv is your modern seaside city with a beautiful stretch of a beach. It can be very hot there. It is magnificent, magnificent city. I remember this building when I was young. I don't remember all of those buildings, so these are all modern. Tel Aviv obviously had this magnificent, impressive structure, but Israel has been holding impressive structures for thousands of years. For example, this building. This building is the second Jewish temple. The second Jewish temple that was standing in Israel 2,500 years ago. Very impressive, 2,500 years ago. And remember the 12 tribes I mentioned in the first slide. So you had the 10 tribes that would walk the land outside of the temple, the 10 Jewish Israeli tribes, whereas 2 tribes would service the temple. These are the tribe of Kohanim. You may have heard of the surname Kohen, descendant of Kohanim, and Leviim, Levi, I think Levi in English. And they would walk the temple. The Kohanim, they would bless the people every day. And you can see that you have this 24-hour fire at that center right there. 24 hours. This is like your modern Wi-Fi. 24 hours it's been working. Your modern internet and ancient internet. And so the Kohanim would bless the people using this gesture. In fact, they would go like this, like that. And this shape that you see in here symbolizes the ancient Hebrew letter of Shin. So that shape is symbolized with one of the Hebrew letters, the letter Shin. Shin stands for one of the name of God, Shaddai. Shin stands for Shaddai. So they would go like that. And that's the symbol of God. That happened in the temple, in the second temple. And the question arises, do you recognize this from somewhere? I know some of you know the answer. Where do you recognize this from? Exactly. That's the Vulcan salute. This actor, what's his name? Leonard Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy, he was Jewish. He remembered going to the synagogue when he was 5 years old. His granddad took him to the synagogue when he was 5 years old. 30 years later, he joined the cast and he said, how about we use that great symbol I remember from the synagogue? And they said, okay, there you go, the Jewish Vulcan salute. Now, the second Jewish temple that stood in Jerusalem, in Israel, was destroyed in the year of 70 by the Romans 2,000 years ago. The Roman exiled the elite of the Jewish people, because he would always exile the rich and the influential, and they escaped to Babylon, which is in Iraq. So the elite was expelled in the year 70, 2000 years ago. But most of the tribes stayed, most of the Jews stayed in Israel, and they lived in Israel ever since then, for 2000 years now. And so from that temple which was destroyed, the only thing that is left is this corner here, a little bit of a wall over there, which is known as the Wailing Wall, very famous Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, the crying wall. These are the original stones. What you don't see is that it goes way below the earth. There's a city below the earth. Those stones at the top are more recent. You can see the smaller one, and you cannot see, but the toppest layer, one slice of stone, this is actually a British addition some 100 years ago, a bit less. And so Jerusalem is known for this Wailing Wall, and it's custom for people to write a note and ask for wishes, and put it in the creeks of the stone. People have been doing it for thousands of years. Literally, you write your request from God, your prayer, and you put it in the creeks of the stones. Now, I did also my letter to God, but I didn't ask something for us. I said, God, I hope that you will always be happy with us, human beings. That was my request, and I put it in the creek of the stone in the wall. Because Jerusalem is holy even to those who are not religious. I'm not religious, by the way. Jerusalem is holy. Here, as I was standing there, I could feel the history rising, literally, from the ground. Now, what does it mean, the history rising? I don't know. I felt the history like a substance rising from the stone of Jerusalem as I was standing there, just like that. You do have the inner city that goes down into the mountains, and you can go and you can visit it. You can have your guided tour inside the caves. It's a magnificent city. On top, you have the so-called city of David, and this tower is called the Tower of King David. It wasn't built by the Jewish King David. It was built recently by the Ottoman, the Turks. The Ottoman occupied Israel for 400 years, and they built that tower. And after they left, in honor of King David, we named it the Tower of King David. You could also find a replica of the gold menorah. This is the gold menorah. I talk all about it in Hanukkah in December. I explain all about the symbolism of the temple. And also in the Jewish holiday of Pesach, Passover in 2 months, I explain the symbolism of the Jewish tribe who left from Egypt and the symbolism of the Ten Commandments. Now I said Israel is hot, right? Here I'm pointing towards that spot over there. I have no idea why. I can't remember. As I said, it's a hot country. Sometimes people get a bit hallucination. Can you see anything special there? Or something there. I mean, the whole wall is holy, but I'm sure I've seen something there. I don't remember. Now, more recently, I started to take real photos, so these real photos of Jerusalem, and I fed them to artificial intelligence. AI is a big thing now. So I'm generating images of Jerusalem based on the real photograph I took. You can do it. You can tell AI, take my photo, learn the structure, and in addition do this and this and this and that. So from this photo here on the left, we have generated that. We've created a series of artificial intelligent art of Jerusalem. You can see clearly how the wall on the left is that structure from the photo on the left, you see? And so we created a series of Jerusalem AI based on real photos. There's another example and another. Now, if you're interested in artificial intelligence and creating images from AI, I wrote about my whole experience. If you're interested, you can find it online. Just search Journal of Creativity and Inspiration, Artistic Integrity, and this article should come. It's a very interesting topic. In Jerusalem, you can literally find kosher McDonald's. How is that possible? Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. The interesting thing about kosher is not just what type of food you consume, what do you eat, what you should not eat, but also how you prepare in the food that you are allowed to eat, how to make the food. So we know that Jewish people will not eat pork, pig meat. You can find pork in Tel Aviv if you want so much, but usually people would not eat pork. Why would they not eat pork? Pork, as you know, would eat everything. I mean, a pig would eat everything. If you put a pig, give it paper, I think it will eat even paper. They can eat everything, so that's not healthy to human being. And also, pig has the heart, which is the closest to a human being. When they need to implant heart for people, they sometimes take pig hearts to save life. So just to move away from the idea of cannibalism, not even getting closer to the idea of cannibalism, we don't eat pig. Stay away from cannibalism. It's about what you eat, what you don't eat, and also how you prepare it, how you prepare the food. Now, pig is not bad. Jewish people don't think that pig is bad thing. It's an animal. God created pig, it created human being. It's not a bad thing. And also, I can tell you that pork meat is tasty. I know that pork is tasty because I once had cheese quiche. I had cheese quiche. Let me explain. I had cheese quiche once, right? So my friend, our neighbor, invited us for a meal. And she knew we were Jewish. She knew that I'm vegetarian. So she bought me a cheese taste quiche. And I never had that type of cheese. So as I was having it, I'm looking down at my cheese quiche and I was telling her, this is a great cheese. I never had that cheese. What is it? And as I spoke, her face turned white. She ran to the kitchen, looked at the label and said, Gil, I apologize. I never bought cheese quiche. I gave you the wrong meal. It was Lorraine quiche. Lorraine is pig, right? Lorraine is pork. I just had a pig. Still so bad. Just had a pig. She was very apologetic. I thought it's hilarious. I thought it's so funny. So I know that pork is tasty. It's not bad animal. Pig is not bad. It is even tasty. But I know it because I had the cheese quiche. Here's a question to you. If you have pork quiche which tastes like cheese, is that kosher or not? That's not a serious question.
You're not allowed to mix.
Exactly. So it's not kosher twice. One because it's pork, and the other, if you mix milk and meat, there's also serious trouble there as well. So it's unkosher twice. I can tell you why milk doesn't go with meat. I know it's tasty, but it doesn't go well in terms of the halakha, the Jewish law. A few more slides, and I will tell you a bit about the Jewish symbols. This is the Jewish flag, obviously, the Israeli flag, which date back ancient times, from 2,500 years ago. The top blue line represents the blue sky, obviously, Mediterranean sky. The bottom blue line represents the Mediterranean Sea that you could see in Israel. And in the middle is the shield of David, in Hebrew, Magen David. This shield, this symbol was literally the shield of King David. And if you crouch and hold in that shield, that should cover, so this should cover your head, this should cover your hands, and this should cover your legs. So that was a shield for King David. It may be that it was just a small emblem in the middle of his shield that looks differently. But we say the shield of King David, Magen David. The shield of David, it's made of two triangles. One triangle is going upwards, representing humanity moving towards God. The other triangle going facing downwards. See this triangle facing downward, representing God moving towards humanity. It also represents fire, air, water, earth, conjoined. You have all the elements of humanity combined. And so, in Hebrew, we have a saying. We say, next year we shall meet in Jerusalem that will be built. In Hebrew, Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. We say it at the end of a meeting, at the end of a conversation. It's like saying goodbye. Say goodbye, Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. It's also an ending of a certain prayer. And the aspiration is that the third temple will be built in Jerusalem. We had two temples that were destroyed, and we always strive for the third one to be built. And the belief is that when humanity unites, when 9 billion of people would unite, then we will have the condition that will allow the build of the future temple. So, at the end of this presentation, I would say, Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. Thank you very much.